Hello, friends and psychiatrists listening. We appreciate you listening too. About 10 years ago, Matthew and Lauren Mosier and I were here in the city protesting another APA convention, and Matthew and Lauren of Soteria House, we did a workshop together on alternative programs we'd worked in. Matthew at Birch House, I at I-Ward, and Lauren at Soteria. And we shared with people what I'd like to share with you now, that there is an alternative vision, an alternative way of being with people who have natural human emotional pain, suffering, madness that psychiatry has blindly and wrongly seen as disease. Lauren and Matt and I at that workshop shared with everyone, which I would share with you today. There's an extremely simple, basic human need that we all have when we're suffering, and that is for a compassionate, loving acceptance by someone or a group of people around us. Lauren and Matt and I basically said basic, necessary, and sufficient conditions for us. The healing balm we need is that loving human connection. And time after time, you'll hear people's in their recovery story, there'll maybe be one person on a psychiatric ward who will come and talk to them. Maybe they've been there for years. That's the alternative vision. But the vision that psychiatry has, and I worked in a public mental health system for almost 28 years. I started there in a sanctuary where there was no medication, no restraints, no diagnosis. It was called I-Ward. It was during the time when Soteria was in San Jose and Diabasis was in San Francisco. There were 3 medication-free madness sanctuaries for people who were in their process to go to. They sprung out of the largest ever NIMH gold standard study ever done on first episode so-called psychosis that most of my psychiatrist friends don't know about, although it was the largest ever. Bob Whitaker still quotes it everywhere he goes. It was at Agnew State Hospital. A large number of young men, half of them in their first episode got Thorazine, half of them got nothing but loving care. At 3-year follow-up, the people who didn't get the medication had a 75% lower rehospitalization rate than the people who got the medication. From that, these sanctuaries in the Bay Area had their justification. It still stands the same vision of compassion versus the belief. And in my news release for this thing, I said, I believe psychiatry suffers from a state of denial. They have a fervent, religious, fundamentalist type of true believer zeal based on science that has not delivered the goods. It has not delivered the goods, but they cling to that belief. They, on the other hand, could say, well, you're a bunch of zealots too. You're all true believers, right? Or maybe we have that new symptom, agnosia, right? Where the fact that we don't believe we're mentally ill is proof we're mentally ill. Well, I don't believe in mental illness, but more than that, I know. Let's stick with what we know. Let's stick with what we know from our heart. The belief system that says that you know, that's the problem. If you live in your head and you have a belief system that says, like 4 psychiatrists told me when I was challenging them at a conference recently, I said, so you all believe that every second that someone is having a so-called psychotic experience, they're undergoing irreparable brain damage. They all nod and go, yes, that's the latest science. That's the brain imaging that shows psychosis damages your brain. Then I asked them if they'd heard about the largest ever NIMH study on psychosis. None of them had. But if you believe in your heart, and you've been to med school, and you're a good person, you're a family person, you have kids, like all these people here, they didn't go to med school to hurt people, but they've believed something. And if you believe that, then you are able to strap down a 3-year-old child, like is done by psychiatry in Australia, and administer electroshock to their head. Why? Because anything you need to do, a medical intervention, to stop that psychosis, you do. You give medications. When I worked for the county, I saw little kids coming in that the psychiatrist would refer to me. They got a little worried. Well, maybe we need to look at this family because the medication for this 4-year-old girl is making her drool, making her stumble. If you believe that that's an intervention, then you do it. If you believe that the over 40,000 lobotomies that were done in the United States is appropriate, you do it. If you believe that the 65,000 forced sterilizations done with the cooperation and the blessing of psychiatry is what science demands, then you do it. Well, listen to your hearts. I see 2 of our brothers in this life over there, psychiatrists. Listen to your hearts. Would you strap down a 3-year-old kid and put ECT electrodes on their heads?
Actually, I'm a neurologist, so no, I wouldn't.
Oh, good. Because you know what it would do to that brain, don't you? You know what it would do to that developing brain. And so what I'm saying is, if we listen to our heart, it tells us, no, hell no, you don't do that. Human beings should not be treated that way. These are human rights violations. You can't do that to people. And Bill Clinton's going to be here this afternoon, and I'd like to say, you've tarnished your legacy.
I lost my juice, but I don't need a microphone. Clinton has tarnished his legacy by being a cheerleader for psychiatry when they are doing the human rights abuses.
Yeah, Bill.
He may have been the most masterful politician of his generation, but he's just proven he's on the wrong side of history. We're on the right side of history. Anyone who doesn't believe this stuff is going on as a human rights abuse needs to look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, would I shock people? Would I do lobotomies? And Robert Whittaker, not to get into some conspiracy thing and all, that stuff, but the legacy of eugenics and what's going on with future NIMH research. Whittaker wrote a great paper who said there's a taint of eugenics in the future NIMH.
In the future NIMH research agenda, because eugenics says that people who have so-called mental illness are defective, period. Well, I'm not defective. I was mad. I was hearing voices. I was delusional. And God bless my grandmother up in Idaho who let me be there with her. My parents, thank God, were on the other coast. I was there in a sanctuary where I got that love. So I know caring and love is the healing balm, and I also know a human rights abuse when I see it, and I challenge the psychiatrists to ask themselves that question. My brother and sister, I'm glad to be with you all here today. Thank you.